The Kimberley is one of those places that has to be seen to be believed. And there's no better way to see this country than to get out of the four-wheel drive and get up into the air. Now there's two great ways to do that up here. One of them is heli fishing out of Home Valley Station. It's a great way to see the country out there from an angle completely different. And the other is a little bit further west, going up to the horizontal waterfalls. It's an epic trip and you get to see this country from an entirely new perspective.
One of the biggest reasons I fell in love with four-wheel driving in Australia was the sense of absolute freedom that comes with it. The D-Max gives me a key that unlocks most of the map of this country. A key to the red highways, the dusty tracks and outback rivers. A key that affords an exit from the cell block of banality. It can be hard to separate the joy of escapism from the joy of driving. But out here, perhaps, this distinction blurs beyond recognition. Escape, for me, is always about a feeling of freedom. It's about chasing exhilaration from one end of the horizon to the next. Some landscapes are too big to discover by car though. Sometimes, if you want to really understand a place as wild as the Kimberley, you need to enlist the help of another kind of vehicle.
I've been barra fishing all over Australia in some pretty awesome spots, but one thing I've never done is heli fishing. So JB here from Professional Helicopter Services, he's going to take us out to a secret spot, I guess, north of Home Valley here.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice spot. Not many people get the chance to go there, and it's very difficult to get there with a vehicle. So heli fishing is the way to get out there. It's a magnificent spot, plenty of wildlife, lots of birds, and also plenty of those big mud geckos as well. So we'll have a great time, and it's definitely a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Plenty of people come from very far and wide to get out there, so we'll have a great time this afternoon.
Sounds like we're about to have an adventure.
You betcha.
Perspective is a funny thing. Out here across the Pentecost River, halfway into the beyond already, we're about to head into country where even a four-wheel drive can't make it. A country without roads. And that means it is a wild country, untamed by humanity, fished more by the crocodiles than by man. We're headed out to a landlocked creek called the Nulla Nulla, an oasis in these dry, alluvial plains, a billabong that draws in a menagerie of life.
We're just on the way out to the creek that we're going to be fishing for some barra in, and it's absolutely stunning up here. This country just spreads out, it's so wild. There's so many rivers up here, the Pentecost, the Durack, we've crossed both of them so far, and just the land out the window is amazing. Being able to shoot this stuff from up here just blows my mind.
We aren't the only ones hunting out here though. As we flew along the banks of the Nulla Nulla Creek, there were plenty of crocs basking along the banks.
Look at him, he's huge.
We made a few passes over the creek, looking for a spot to land where there weren't any crocs, where it was clear enough to fish and keep an eye out for more. JB found a spot where the grass wasn't too long near the water, and we sat her down. This water isn't tidal, so any afternoon is a great time for catching barra here.
This country, the ride out here in the chopper was pretty amazing. There's so much wildlife here. Jabiru, Brolga, freshies, salties. It's pretty wild. I've never really seen the country this way in the Kimberley, and now I'm kind of regretting I left it this long. But really, just the trip out here alone, that's worth it. To get to fish for barra in this landlocked creek, that's just the icing on the cake, really.
Up here, the Golden Bombers are pretty reliable lures for just about any barra spot.
Not a big one. Look at that, just nice and easy.
He's a good eater, he's probably 60. Keep him down.
And this, folks, is the beauty of using a helicopter to go barramundi fishing. This place is off tap. The Nulla, pretty amazing place. Pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, down. He's probably coming right at you. Yeah, yep. There he is. Oh, he's a little fella. He's just walked himself up. He's actually quite a, look out, oh, he's a dark one too.
Yeah.
Look at the colour of that.
Like a real estuary one.
Yeah.
Another little bear out the Nulla. These guys, you get such a good fight out of them here. It's not deep water here. They've got a lot of energy coming all the way into the bank, so heaps of jumps and pretty exciting fish to catch. Like, I don't think anybody ever gets sick of catching barra.
With dinner in the bag already, we let this guy go back into the creek. He seemed pretty stoked to be living another day.
All right, cool, so keep that tip down, that's the one.
That's a good
That's
fish.
the shot. Because they're so close, I'll have heaps of fight. So yeah, keep that rod down, yeah, that's it. And then there you go. Oh, hello, listen to that.
He's having a go, huh?
Yeah, but yeah, just keep that thing down. And then just drag him up the back with the rod pointed at him. Yep, that's it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, beautiful. That is a magnificent specimen of a Nulla barra.
That is a beautiful fish. Look at him.
There you go.
That is a nice fish right there. You know, it's funny, once they get above sort of mid-60s, and this guy's probably like over 70, they just get a lot more pull to him. And just when I had him up to the bank, he had another couple of goes, just dancing plenty. And that's the tricky bit with barra, is these guys know how to throw a lure like no other fish. So when you get something like this in, it's not just a big fish, it's a big fight to get it there. That's awesome. Mate, this is a good place. No lie, that's probably my 8th cast out here. It's that quick to get a beast like that on. What more could you ask for?
I've fished plenty of barra spots in WA, the Territory, and the Cape, but I don't think anywhere has ever turned it on in terms of sheer numbers like the Nulla. It felt like every cast we did had a fish on the other end today.
Sweet action. There we go, look at that.
Lovely. Thanks, mate.
Okay, mate, you got him.
Look at that. Right up next to the shore as well. So, you know, you cast them all the way across the creek here, but I reckon half the hits we've had are like a meter or two away.
Fish on.
And on again.
Good, that's good. Little fella.
And it wasn't just baby barra pulling on our lines either.
Yeah. This one's got a bit of pull to him as well.
There we go, look at that. Great job, mate. Bloody well done. Good fish.
That is a horse right there. This is an 87 centimeter barramundi. So far, best of the day. And man, this guy, he only jumped a couple of times. They come in towards the bank when you're catching them, and so a lot of times you just got to be on the ball because they come right up into the shallows and then they jump on you, so you've got to be on the ball with your rod, just pointing down at the fish. They're pretty quick, and a girl like this, she's got a lot of energy even when they come out the water. I'm pretty stoked right now. This is exactly what I came to the Kimberley for. You know, the sunsets, the camping and everything else, but snagging a barra like this out of these absolutely wild places, this is what it's all about.
Out here, we spear the fish back into the water for a couple of reasons. Get water over the gills, and to keep our arms away from the salties. We'd spent about an hour and a half on the water and pulled in 24 barramundi over 60 centimeters. Some experiences drift away from us, like the dust beneath the D-Max, particles in our blurry past designed to settle in layers upon layers we won't recall. But there are days that stay burned, like brands, effervescent scars. Catching a barra on a warm afternoon a million miles away from civilization and coming home to a sunset river camp will always be one of those days. The Gibb River Road sprawls across over 600 kilometers of alluvial plains, mountain ranges, creeks, and rivers, but it barely scratches the surface of this Kimberley wilderness. Most of the country up here is nearly impossible to get to, trackless, remote, and inhospitable. That's why we have to abandon the four-wheel drives from time to time and rely on local transport, like helicopters and seaplanes. if we want to see some of the best places the Kimberley has to offer. The horizontal waterfalls are a unique phenomenon here, where the tides can run 10 meters and all that water gets funneled between a few sheer cliff faces in the heart of the Buccaneer Archipelago, about 240 kilometers northeast of Broome. Just seeing the country up here on the way up is worth the ticket. The real adventure is getting up close and personal with the falls. Okay, it's actually a pretty real adventure landing a small plane on water. That's something I can definitely tick off the list now.
I've always been intrigued by this part of the Australian outback. And we're north of the Mitchell Plateau here, where the horizontal falls are. It's an interesting phenomenon geologically speaking. This place is very young. About 10,000 years ago, still an ice age. And these are basically dry valleys that we're floating on top of now. So a lot's changed, but because it's so young, that's what makes us get these horizontal waterfalls and these massive tides that define the Kimberley. The ocean is coming in and it's essentially trying to reclaim this land. Now, it hasn't done it yet, but the ocean's busy carving this down into a nice flat landscape, and it makes a heck of a show.
After an epic plane ride into a floating dock, we made our way onto a speedboat custom built for shooting the falls, which run pretty much all day long except when the tides aren't running for a couple of hours. The sheer scale of what's happening here is hard to appreciate until you get right up close and hear the roar of all that water. The unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
The sheer amount of water here is staggering. It's like someone pulled the drain on a bath plug and an entire sound has to empty out to this one little hole in the rock here.
We made a half a dozen passes through the Eye of the Needle, a gap in the cliffs about 4 meters across, with thousands of gallons of seawater pouring through a minute, and us riding it like a cork in a storm. It seems strange to toy with something like this. This landscape has claimed many, many lives over the years. We truly are at the edge of the beyond here, riding a maelstrom for kicks, sailing waters for fun that men would have once dreaded more than death. This is what it means to be absolutely modern.
I've been coming up to the Kimberley for about half a dozen years, and everyone's always said you've got to go up and see the horizontal falls. It's part of the country that you're not going to get to see unless you come out with a group like this. And I have to say, I don't know why I left it so long.
After all this flying around, watching the trees move below me like a train set, a little too far away, a little too neatly spaced on the brown and bloody ground, it's almost nice to get back into the D-Max, to feel gravity shifting around the bends on the Good River Road, to hear the familiar metallic roar of gravel hitting the suspension. Home is always going to be wherever I lay my head, I guess. But where I feel at home, more than any other place or time or light, is behind the wheel. This is where the lightness and the weight balance out, where it feels like the scales are leaning into the turns, because change is everything. Nothing feels like change, like driving through a new landscape in a four-wheel drive toward who knows what. Out here, behind this welded wheel, the atmosphere is my highway, the horizon, my next meal.
When mankind first ventured beyond the Earth's atmosphere and looked back and saw that planet so far away from man and mankind, we picked up a new kind of philosophical disease of the soul. And we call that cosmonaut syndrome. Carl Sagan called it the pale blue dot effect. And basically it's that we've seen this thing from a whole new perspective. We've seen how insignificant all of our little problems are. And it's hard to come back to the real world after having that kind of a peak experience. But I think we have this responsibility to try to do that. Because coming out here and gaining that perspective and seeing how small our problems really are is important, and that's the only thing that's going to give our mundane lives back home any real meaning at all. Now, it may seem like a little bit of, what's the word? We moved the roads in Australia. Here comes the car. This place has awesome four-wheel driving. There's some steep, rocky tracks to get out. Seriously.